So this is a pattern that I've been thinking about for a while that I think relates to regenerative governance. And this is a vision sort of how I see this pattern connects. And so I have a subtitle here, and I think the objective of this is that you'll understand this subtitle by the end of this, which is torus-like patterns give shape to pluricentric and scalable governance in nested systems. Okay, starting with nested systems, because that's probably familiar to all of us. This is a socio-ecological model. It's used widely to understand this idea of nested systems. What this framework says to us is that each layer is a whole and a resilient system itself. So we are systems, the individuals, ourselves, our groupings, our families, our systems, our communities. We talk about economic systems, like all the way up to that societal level. And so what I'm exploring is that governance practices are different at each of these systems levels. So if you take this framework, which is probably, I'm thinking is mostly familiar to folks, and you rotate it around an axis. By spinning this socio-ecological model in 3 dimensions, you produce this kind of 3-dimensional nested system diagram. And each of these now are nested tori. And so this is going to introduce us to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is our torus-like patterns. So what is a torus? A torus, it's a mathematical shape. There's a whole branch of mathematics called typology that really the torus is a main part of and is key to. A torus is a continuous surface with a hole in the middle. The torus represents a model for understanding complex systems, from the atomic and molecular scales to the astronomical scale, emphasizing the interconnectedness and dynamic balance of systems. There are photos of torus-like motion around the black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, for example. It speaks to then a potentially universal principle of energy and matter organization.
One thing about tori is that they're essentially the same thing as a flat square, except if you equate the outer edges of the east and west edges and the north and south edges, you end up with a torus.
So, yeah. On the left side, the picture here, as it's labeled, is a torus in dynamic motion. And the freeze frame is kind of the mathematics of this. So a torus is made, this donut shape is made by a circle going around a circle, basically. And so in the dynamic motion on the left, both of those circles are moving, are going in circles or spiraling. So my question for the group, when you look at these pictures of a torus, what does this convey to you about regeneration? What about what you know as regeneration seems to be symbolized?
I see Brad.
Well, I love that it's analogizes to donut economics really well. So that's just my first reaction is, some interconnection there. Definitely. And speaking as I have a degree in math, so I love anything that has to do with geometry.
I think it also speaks to the continuously changing nature of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe to right relationship somehow, like things are in relationship with one another in an ordered way here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michelle Dorr says we are only moments, always moving and evolving, which means if you're not moving, you're dead. So there's that sense of movement.
Yes.
And I've, of course, seen this. So, but it's the cyclical. There's an in, it goes out, it comes back in, it goes out, it comes back in. So there's that cycling sense, which I relate with regeneration and regenerative systems.
Yeah, so we're getting an expansion But we're
right?
also doing a contraction, right? That's balancing the expansion.
It's not just ever expanding. It comes back. So it makes me think of a lot of the, it makes me think of the learning. You know, it makes me think of how important learning is for regeneration. I see you, Cameron, and Brad, it looks like your hand's still up, so you can be next if your hand's meaningful, but okay. Yeah, Cameron.
One thing that struck me is that if you were on that inside edge, looking across the gulf at the other side, someone on the other side, it may not be immediately apparent that you're still part of the one system.
Good insight.
Mm. Yeah. Miguel.
Yeah, I can see a kind of diverging and converging cycle of fresh matter. On the upper level is a kind of diverging, but then is converging, but then again is starting a new cycle of diverging. So it's like in design thinking, for example, this is
Yes.
very, very useful. Is stimulating people to continue to ideate and converge, and in order to get some value proposition or results, something concrete.
If I can comment, because that design cycle, that was one of the first things that captured my attention. Is it's like, right, we go out, we try, we come back to center, right? Like we come back and we test, like, okay, like how did this work? Like that sense for me of purpose at the center that we're constantly rechecking in with. So I had another question for this, which is if you're looking at this image on the right, and I told you that was an organizational chart, what would you assume about that organization? If that was their organizational chart, what might you wonder about that organization? What questions might you?
The word trust comes up for me.
Well, it's
I would
certainly
say it's probably
non-hierarchical. Good.
Non-hierarchical, Brad. Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, and I was gonna say possibly even matriarchal.
Mm.
I
There's
think
a
the
femininity.
center becomes the organizing principle somehow. It's holding things together. So I agree, non-hierarchical.
Yeah, the word equity showed up for me. And then the red ring, because that's the blue rings. It's actually equity throughout. But the blue rings, like that's a entity within it, and they have equity of value. And then the red ring connects all of them, like allows them to connect to each other. Like, right? Like that's the red wing allows them all to connect to each other.